Hello, this is Tina with You Made That, and today I have Jake on.
Hey, great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Jake is back. Now, he was here, he's been here several times, but he was here recently to show us his 3D printer, and
Yeah.
he had built that cage structure around it. So he showed us that. Well, today, tell us what you're going to show us today, Jake.
Well, I thought it'd be fun to show some more of the things that I've made with the printer, and then even to show you the software that I use to create all those things so that you go out and do it yourself. It's actually a free software too, and there's tons of tutorials out there on YouTube. So I'm not going to make one of those, but I just thought something to show it off so that people can be inspired and see what it can do. I just thought that'd be really fun to show today.
I think so too. All right, let's get into it. You're going to share your screen with us.
Yeah, I will. So this is a software called Blender, and you can do basically anything regarding 3D modeling with this. So it's very powerful. You can create characters, you can do animations, you can do painting and rendering, lots of things like that. I haven't gotten too much into it other than 3D modeling. My computer can't really handle the animations, it will crash as soon as I try to make something move. But I'll show you the models. So it's fun because you can make characters with the printer like this. So things that I've made all myself. I like to make my own models rather than download them for free, but that's also an option if you have a printer. So anyway, I just thought it'd be fun to show you the software. So this is the interface that you'll get once you open it for the first time. It's going to start you with a basic cube, and then this is a point of light and a camera for animating, but I don't know how to do that, so I delete them. But it's got lots of fun things you can do. If you like to think in terms of geometry, you can go here and draw, based off of where your points are. But if you're like me and you don't think that way and you just think it's more fun to do sculpting, then you go to this window and you get basically paintbrushes. So these are different tools that will move the shape depending on how you use them. And it feels a lot more like painting or drawing, but in 3D. So that's what I was going to show you today. What do
Nice.
you go ahead?
Oh, I said nice.
Oh, what do you want me to make? You can make a little animal or a
Yeah,
character or something.
make a cute little animal.
Okay, let's do that. So the way I like to do it is by using spheres. The cubes and cylinders are just a little too rigid. A sphere, it's just like having a ball of clay. That's something that we grew up doing. I usually ended up making monkeys or a pair of pants, and we would make clay and make little stop motion videos out of them. So that's what I'm going to do today is I'm going to act like I have a ball of clay and I'm going to move it around on the computer. So I open my sphere and we're going to add subdivisions. It's a fancy term for basically just more clay. So we're going to move that and we're going to go to the sculpting window and get started. One of the things I did not know you could do when I first did this was turn on a button that will mirror every action you do. So I was starting out and I would do something like this to make an arm, and I'd move it around, and then I'd try my best and try to guess and get the same arm, but it would never look right. And so I learned you can hit this little button for X and you can make two arms at the same time. So it's very handy and it makes your workflow go way faster and you don't have to spend time with every little detail. So let's make something fun. We could just make like a little frog. So I'm going to draw his eyes. And this is just me trying to remember what a frog looks like. I will usually pull up an image on my other screen to reference. But for today, we're just going to guess. And if it looks horrible, then that makes it more fun. So this is the grab brush. The grab brush is basically your hands. And you're just using this to stretch it and pull it and move the 3D clay all around. And so I'm trying to get a little shape here for like a frog's mouth with some fat cheeks, and then a shape up here for his eyes. So I'll just kind of keep going. And Tina, feel free to ask me any questions that you're thinking of. I don't want it to be too technical, but I just thought it'd be kind of fun to display the the software and maybe inspire some people.
Sure. I like the comparison with clay. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, that's an easy way to think about it, because if you're it might be overwhelming to just open this for the first time and go, what are all these buttons? What does this do? What am I looking at? But if you think about it just like playing with clay, then it's more fun and freeing, and you can just go, oh, I'm just going to make a little foot, and you just kind of squish it around and hope it looks good. But it's much more forgiving than clay because you can hit Control Z. Something I wish you could do in real life, but we can't.
Right. Are you using a mouse?
Yes, so I am using a mouse to do some of the, hitting the buttons on this screen, and then I like to use a drawing tablet to do the clay, so that it gives you, like a pen, and it feels more like you're painting and gives you like the drawing feeling. So it's a little easier to work with than clicking a mouse.
Okay. Oh, okay. I was wondering why you didn't use the symmetry tool to make the other leg, but you just copy and pasted it over.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a faster way to do some things. I'm just taking a couple shortcuts to get the character started so that people can tell what I'm doing, because right now it looks like a a little freak. It doesn't look like anything recognizable. So I'm using some things called modifiers, and they basically will save you time. Blender has a lot of powerful simulation devices, so you can even do a cloth modifier that will make clothes with realistic wrinkles and stuff. So these are just some duplicating modifiers and scaling things to just get going a little quicker and save you the effort of drawing it. But let's draw a little bit because that'll be fun. So I'm going to go here, and this is called clay strips. I basically only use 3 tools to do everything. Clay strips will add volume and basically is drawing, putting paint down on the page. The grab is like your hands pulling things. And then there's another brush called crease, and that does little cracks. And I like to do that at the end to really make everything pop. So like a crack for where your mouth is, under your eyeball, and it'll pop that out and make it look a little more realistic and professional. So we'll start with the clay strips, and if you hold down shift, you can smooth it out, which always makes it look nicer. We'll smooth everything out at the end too. But we'll just draw a couple circles, and now he already has eyes, and we'll come down here and draw a big old mouth, big old frog mouth.
Wow.
And we're already, starting to see something. So I had just shown you, how to create the shapes, and it looked weird, and it didn't really, give you any idea that we're going somewhere with it. But once you start drawing, and now I'm using my drawing pen on the tablet, then you really start to get something to come together, and it makes it easier to visualize what you're making. So we can give him a little face. We could give him, a tongue or a top hat or whatever, and just make it fun. But I'm going to just try to start with a basic character so that we have something to look at. So I've just joined all the shapes together, and that way I can smooth them out all at once rather than smoothing them separately. Now I can smooth them together and join the, well, actually, you know what? Let's make him like this, because frogs have big butts. So we'll make his, his thigh muscle a lot bigger so that he can jump, and give him a little bit of realism. So anyway, yeah, this is how I make all my characters. I make a lot of Marvel superheroes. I was working on a chess set that I recently completed. I think I showed a few of those in the last video, but I would always come around again to do another one, and we could just highlight that, maybe show the final product. I've packaged it into a suitcase, and I want to put a board in there and maybe some foam pieces to hold all the characters in place. So that was a big project that I was happy to finish. I've also made Halloween costume pieces with this, and I could show you that. I brought that today. This is a hat that I made. So this one I had to model cohesively, and then using the software, I used some cutting tools, and then I was able to print it in smaller pieces and glue and seam weld it together so that it would be head sized. I could put it on, but it's a little tight.
Oh,
It got bigger, so it might take me a minute.
oh, okay. I wondered why you wouldn't put it on.
I gotta save it for the full effect with the rest of the costume on.
Oh.
Just sitting here with a helmet might look silly. So anyway, yeah, I just thought this would be a cute little guy to start with, but you can make anything. So I like to make a lot of human models, like I was saying with the superheroes. I make Pokemon when we're playing the games and we find that we don't have, a figurine of a character we like, then I can make that and send it out to family and friends just by using the software and my printer. So that's a lot of fun. Gives you a lot of freedom to do whatever you want. So anyway,
cool.
He is looking a little crazy-eyed. This is the crease tool that I was talking about. So it makes all of your lines sharper. And now you can see more about, oh, this is a pupil within the eye rather than two, circles stacked on top of each other. You start to get a sense of what that shape is really meaning. And so it just helps. It gives your models a level of professionalism. But this one's pretty bad, so I shouldn't be saying that as I make the worst frog that the world has ever seen.
Well, you just did it in 12 minutes, so I mean, that's not bad.
Thank you. There's his tongue.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's just something to show you how the software works. But let me show you a finished model that would be more interesting for the viewers now that they can see, what the possibilities are. Here's a finished model I have. This is a character called Magneto from the chess set that I was talking about. That's why he's standing on this little base, square base that goes onto the board. And so this is something I made in Blender, but I have to bring it into what's called Bamboo Studio. It's the 3D printing software, and this is where I can paint it. And the painting will tell the printer where to put each color of plastic so that the final version will come out looking just like it does on the computer.
Why are there two?
It's always more efficient to print more than one because you have to make this waste tower. It's called a waste tower because when you have different colors, they will blend together. So the printer will squeeze out a little bit of plastic, in red, and then it will pull it back and squeeze out a little bit of purple. But there's still some red on the tip of the printer. And so you would blend it together. It's like paint. Basically, when you're painting, you have to stick the brush in water and twirl it around and dry it off before you put your next color on so they don't bleed together. So that's what this block is doing. And because it's just a big block of garbage that you throw away, you have to make one per print, no matter how many guys you're making. So I always like to print as many guys as I can. So I only have to make one waste block for 10 guys rather than one waste block for each guy.
So you would finish the frog in Blender and then you would save and then import him into this program?
Yeah, let's just do that because that will be funny to look at. So we're going to export him.
Tongue?
Yep, with the tongue and everything. We will just call him Bad Looking Frog. And then...
He looks like a letter opener.
Yeah, see, and that's cool because you can print things to be functional. So I could print this and you could put, a sharp object as the tongue and use them to cut letters, not other things. As I was saying that, I thought maybe this is a bad description. Oh, where did I save that to? So let me bring in that frog and we can paint him. Here he comes. There he is. So here's our little frog now next to him. You can use a lot of different buttons on here. This is all relative to the printing. So we're not going to be able to change the model in any way other than scaling it and coloring it. So if we want him to be bigger so we can see him, we'll go 300% or something like that. And then we can move him to the front so that we're looking at the frog. And then this is what I think is the most fun part. It's usually the most fun to watch is the painting. So we'll come here and hit this paint bucket. And now we have all of our colors. I've already selected these colors because that's what Magneto looks like. And so that's why, you only have these 8 options, but you can change all of them. So if we don't want them to be red, I don't know how many frogs there are in the world that are red, we'll change them to green. And then we can use this paint bucket and fill in large sections, like the tongue might clip on here. Maybe not. There it is. And we can use the circle brush. So now we're actually painting. I was using that as a metaphor, but now we're actually going to do it. Let's get white for the eyes. So we'll click on white over there. Then we'll come in here with the brush. We can make the brush bigger. This will take me a while. So let's make the brush larger until it looks like, yep, it's about the size of his eyeball. And then we can paint the eye, go to black, paint the inside. And then what I'll usually spend way too many hours doing is tediously cleaning up each line with the tiny brush like this. And that takes hours and hours and hours because I am a perfectionist, and I'll go, oh, that's not quite right. Let me go there. Oh, that was a little too much. All right, go back to the white. And I do that. And then when you print the frog out and it's half an inch tall, you can't even tell where the lines were. So that's my problem. But it's fun. I think it's relaxing. I like to paint while I'm watching TV. And it's a soothing activity. So even if you don't like the modeling, you can download models for free and just paint them if that's what you like to do.
Well, if he was made out of clay and you were painting him with acrylic paint, you'd still have to do that, because if you're painting green, oops, I got some into the white. Now I got to touch up the white. Oops, I got some in the green. Now I got to touch up the green. So
back and forth. Yeah. Yep. I think that's what every artist goes through. It's figuring out how much time am I going to spend on this before I just go, okay, good enough, on to the next project. Otherwise, I would spend forever on this one frog.
What's the name of this program again?
So there are multiple depending on your printer. I have a 3D printer from a company called Bamboo Labs. So this is called Bamboo Studio. And they have, the nice thing about the Bamboo Labs printer is that you can attach more than one set of color changers. So on most printers, you get 1 to 4 colors. On Bamboo Labs, you can keep purchasing more and expanding on the setup. You can go up to 16 colors. So that's why I have 8 options here, is I can actually print it out with 8 different colors, all on the same character. And for someone who doesn't like to paint in real life, but likes to do it on the computer, that saves me a lot of time because I can just print them as is. And if I want to give it to a friend or a bunch of friends, I can make 20 of them and they all show up like this, and I don't have to paint 20 of them all at once. So I really like the Bamboo printer. And so I'm using their software for everything to get them ready to be built.
So when you buy green filament for your 3D printer, does it come with a hex code or something that you then key into here so that you're looking at the same green color as the filament?
It doesn't, but it should. That would be a good idea. So one of the things that is a problem with doing it online or on the software is I will debate what shade of green I want my frog to be. Look at all these options. I have a million different options for shades. I can come over here, pick these shades, and oh, that's the perfect green. I love that green. Well, if I don't have it, I can't make it. So they don't sell a million different shades. So I have to go on the website and try to buy what looks closest to that. And so, yeah, you can't match it, unfortunately, directly to the software, but you can still tell the printer, hey, I'm using green, and it will do some different things to make that green turn out better. Like if you're using black, black doesn't bleed. Colors don't bleed into black, so it doesn't have to clean it as much when it's printing black stuff. But a white or a yellow, it will clean it more so that those colors don't get all messed up. And we can see now Magneto's changed colors too. I got rid of the red, so now he's green. So when you're printing on this, you want to make sure all of your characters are using the same colors, or you'll, this is actually a pretty cool color scheme, so I might make him look like that anyway. Put my own spin on it.
Because they're on the platform too, they changed colors. It wasn't just selecting the frog.
Yes. So I have 8 options here. And if all 8 options are already used, then I'll just have to change one that I'm working with to make a new color. So if I wanted to print Magneto with 8 different colors and none of them are green, I'll have to print the frog at a separate time. I would just come here and do new project, and then I'd print him all on his own or with other green characters when I'll already have that color in the printer.
How long would it take to 3D print one frog or 5 frogs or whatever?
It's a good question. So what I'll do, which you should always do before you make any changes, is save. And then I'll delete these guys. So I've already saved, so I can go back to them whenever I want. But if I just wanted to print the frog, I'd already painted it, I've already scaled it. I've got lots of different settings here. I will not explain them now because it would take until tomorrow. But we would get all of our printer settings and we would hit slice plate. Slice is just the term for 3D printing because it builds it up in different layers. So slicing is cutting this frog into 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 vertical layers, and that will give you the level of detail that you want. So we'll slice it, and it's going to tell us how long it'll take, material it'll take, and a couple other metrics that I could do to change things if I wanted. You'll already probably notice these weird pillars. I get a lot of questions about these. So like, what's this green item here? That's not as, part of the frog that we made. Where did that come from? That's called a support. And so the printer is going to be building up. And so if his tongue is sticking out and there's no frog material underneath it, it will need something to go there because it can't just print the plastic onto thin air. So it's going to generate these automatically wherever it sees something floating. And so that's where those come from. And then I just have to pull them off with pliers or something at the end. That's the only sort of work that I have to do after it comes off the printer. But here's our frog with all of his different colors and everything. That's how it'll look. The white is showing a seam, so you might get little bumps and ridges there. And if that bothers you, you can change it to move where the white lines are. But anyway, since we don't care about that, here's our print time. So this is the most important thing to look at. Your total time is 3 hours and 43 minutes. And if that's too short and you want to make more of them, you can just copy the frogs. If that's too long, you can make them smaller. There's a couple of things we can do to change that. It's also nice that this software is really powerful and it's showing me how much of each color I'm using. So we have 0.63 ounces of green filament, 0.16 ounces of black filament. So it's going to show me all of those. And then it's actually even cooler is I have put in the brand of plastic that I bought and it's telling me the cost. So right here, it's saying based on this volume of filament and the brand you bought, it'll cost you 84 cents to make this frog.
Wow.
So that's pretty fun.
But you said before you didn't want to just print one because you'll still have that tower of waste. So
Yep.
if you copied him and made 5, would it still take 3 hours or would it take longer then?
That's a great question. So it will take longer, but it'll take less time per frog. So think about it like buying in bulk. So how we go to Costco to buy all of my groceries. If I go to Hy-Vee and I buy 1 box of cereal, it'll be $2 a box. If we go to Costco, I might get 2 boxes worth for $3, right? So it's less, I'm getting more. So that's how the printer is working because it does different things to prepare the bed, make it level, to create that waste tower we talked about. So it has all these other operations. But if I'm just making more frogs at once, it'll only have to do those things one time for all the frogs. So let me show you that. We'll come back here to the frog and we will copy him a bunch of times. And now we have an army of frogs. So now we have 10 of them. So once we slice it, we will get almost there, like this little Squirtle that they show. Whoever made the software must be a Pokemon fan because the default image is a Squirtle that they're slicing. It'll take longer because we're making more of them. So now the program is figuring out how is my printer going to move around to draw all of these different frogs. It's going to look at more efficient ways to do it. So now we're at 9 hours. It's not 3.5
Oh,
hours per frog because you have all that overhead that's going into getting the different colors and all that. So it's only going to be 9 hours now and $2.58 per frog because they got cheaper, just like buying them in bulk. So this is useful to me. I have considered starting a little business, maybe even going to some farmers markets and things. My wife likes to sell art there, and so I could, 3D print some original characters and maybe useful things around the house. And this is how I would figure out how much to charge because it's hard to guess. I show you this character and well, how much is that worth? I don't know. How much is it worth to you? So I can actually use the software and say, well, it cost me $2.50 to make it, figure out how much my time is worth to me. And then that's how I would price all those items if I were to sell them. So it's actually pretty cost effective. I think $2.50 to make eight frogs. And how tall did we say they were? Let's look at the scale. Inch and a half tall. I think that's pretty good. You would buy something like this at the store, a Duplo or a little kid's toy, and that might cost $5 or $10. I got 8 of them for $3. So, if you spend the time to learn how to do this, and you obviously purchase the equipment or find a friend with a 3D printer, you can get a lot of things and save money in the long run, and it's a lot of fun.
cool. Yeah, and they're not like cookies, so you can put them close together and they're not going to spread into each other.
Yeah, that's true. The only thing would be the supports that it generates. So I might have to go look here, and just like a cookie, these two supports were too close. So that would be something I would fix later. I'd just slide them a little bit apart, and then we wouldn't have any overlap. Sometimes a printer can mess up. They're not perfect. A lot of people think they're perfect because they're like little robots, but it can make mistakes. So it auto-generated that support setup, but they overlapped. And if you're actually going to print that, it would draw one circle and then it would come back to draw the next one. And that would basically rip up and cut the first circle. And now you'd have all these little strings flapping around, and that can cause your whole print to get messed up and look like spaghetti. So it's important to double check the computer's work and do it yourself if you need to.
Wow, cool.
So
Okay, well, that was really good. I never knew that. I didn't know, so that's cool. And you drew the frog yourself, but there are free templates or whatever that you
yeah.
can people offer. Hey, here's a frog letter opener. It's
Mhm.
free. And people download it and then they color it themselves or whatever. Or you can just start from scratch.
Yeah, a lot of people have businesses where they don't print things and mail them to you, but they will create the 3D model and they'll post it to their website or a shared website and say, "Hey, download this." But they will have to give out free ones just to show people that they can do good work. Maybe buying a detailed model of a famous character would cost you $10, but they'd post like this little frog for free and you can download and go, hey, that was pretty cool and it worked out. It's a good artist. I'll go back and I'll buy one of their better models. So you can go and download a bunch of them and just try them out before you learn how to make them yourself. And that's a nice way to get people started and interested in the hobby.
That is. Okay. Do you have any other finished items that you want to show us?
Yeah, I can show you some more things. I created a scale chart. So I'm using the character Ant-Man because he is famous for shrinking and growing. But I built these characters and then I made this little base that they slide into, and it will show you what the character looks like at 1 inch tall, 2 inch tall, 1.5 inch tall. And that's helpful for me as I'm modeling them because I want to know what the level of detail I'm going to get at each size. So here's a 1 inch tall character. If I gave him a really serious expression and a lot of detail and stitching in the clothing, you're not going to see that. So maybe I spent a week making it really detailed, but I printed it too small. Now I can't see any of it. If I do the big version, now you can see what the face looks like. You can see I'm really bad at this camera. It's mirrored. You can see the detail in the clothing, and you get a sense of what the character looks like. So I made this reference for myself so that as I'm modeling them, I can figure out what size is appropriate for each character.
Cool.
I also have some fun ones. There's ones that move. So this is a dragon from Harry Potter. It moves because in Blender, I made all these shapes and I didn't join them. So like you saw me do with the frog, I joined it so I could smooth the legs into the body, smooth the head into the neck. But if you don't do that, you can keep them all as separate pieces that are just floating together. And the printer will print them interlocking and then they can move. So that's another fun thing to do. You can make little toys. You can make a car that rolls. There's so many possibilities. That's why I just think it's such a fun thing to do because you can do anything you want.
Well, and it's proof that Jake enjoys it because he does this at work for his
Yeah.
job, and then he goes home and does it again for his hobby.
The things I make at work are not as fun. I don't get to make characters and frogs and funny little guys. I have to make things that are functional and useful, but not as interesting to look at.
Well, that's cool. Well, thank you very much. Oh, is there anything else that you want to show us?
I would love to show you the chess set and maybe some of the more detailed models, but I think we can do that as another video, make it a part 2 so that people can have something to look forward to and tune in again to see my face.
Dun, dun, dun. Jake part 3. Stay tuned.
I'm excited about it. It's always fun.
Yay. All right. Well, thanks, Jake. Thanks for sharing your passion and what you're really good at doing, and even good at gifting things that people might put your way and say, hey, can you make me one of these? Or my friend has her 3D printed crafting thing and I want one too. So yeah, they make good Christmas presents.
I've done lots of commissions. Whether you ask for it or not, I will think of something that you want. And so far, people have really appreciated it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks for letting me talk about it. I'm glad to share that with people.
Yeah, and thanks everybody for watching. If you have a comment for Jake or for me, leave it in the comment section below. And I will put a link to the other video where Jake shows his 3D printer and the cage. I just call it a cage. I don't know. What is
That's
it
fine.
called? The cage, you mean.
Enclosure, but the cage sounds
Enclosure.
cool. Like a cage match.
So I'll put a link to that one below. And thanks again, everybody, for watching. And thanks, Jake.
Thank you. See you next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.